Sarah Silverman is a comedian that I actually grew up liking. She was pretty attractive, and I like the fact that she didn't have a filter, and those were the type of women that I would gravitate towards. You know, like she was kind of like anti-class, and I know there's a time and place for class, but typically, like say if I were to take a woman out on a date and she showed up in a dress and high heels, I'd be like, you know, I was just gonna take it to the arcade. So Sarah is no stranger to controversy like many other comedians, and just like many other comedians, she's also done blackface. And because of that, she had experienced cancel culture, which is something that has been absolutely rampant. I think we all know about it. I think if you're watching this video specifically, you hate it. And it's really interesting that she unearthed this. You know, she was on a podcast recently. She started to talk about what happened to her. It's because of, you know, the blackface that she did. And of course that would catch up with her. And it's really interesting to hear her take on cancel culture, especially because I feel like she's helped perpetuate it. But let's listen to what she has to say.
How do you feel about canceled culture, where we have these things from the past and then we're not allowed to kind of enjoy them anymore?
You know, I think it's really scary, and it's a very odd thing that's invaded the left primarily, and then the right will mimic it in it, you know, kind of like, oh, this isn't okay, then we're gonna say we're offended by this.
I think she's 100% right about that. It bubbled up on the left, and then the right just couldn't handle it. They're like, we have to join cancel culture too. And one of the biggest events was when Mike Cernovich went after James Gunn and got him fired from Guardians of the Galaxy. And that was one of those things where he's like, dig up old tweets, look at all these horrible jokes he's telling, look at Disney, and then boop, he was gone. Luckily he's back now, but it was just like, you couldn't just let the left do it, right? You had to join in too. You just had to join in cancel culture.
But
yeah,
I see it on the left, like this cancel culture that I call it righteousness porn.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, if you're not on board, if you say the wrong thing, if you had a tweet once, if you whatever, you know, everyone is like throwing the first stone, you know, whatever. You know, it's so odd.
Throwing the first stone is a great way to put it, because all these people that are virtue signaling and trying to cancel one another, you know they're all a bunch of scumbags. You know they have skeletons and demons. And it's one of those things where it's like, you should probably quit while you're ahead, because somebody's gonna dig up your bullshit and then you're gonna be canceled as well.
It's, look how righteous I am, and now I'm gonna press refresh all day long to see how many likes I get in my righteousness. And the thing that breaks my heart is, ideally, and I keep myself, I try to, you know, listen, I'm not saying that I'm immune to that.
Yeah.
I don't like liars, but I do have compassion for like the lied tos.
I'm glad she said that, and I can respect that, because yeah, she's absolutely not immune to it. If you scroll through her Twitter history just a little bit, you see that she's a massive virtue signaler. She's all about cancel culture, really. Like, if you think about it, I remember a couple years ago, there was like a big deal about, she was trying to make a joke about some road construction signs, and she was like, oh, something about swastikas and stuff, and it was such a poorly constructed joke that can only be made in this outrage culture, this virtue signaling cancel culture era that we're in. She wouldn't make that joke before. There would be no reason to, but she's trying to play up to the audience that are so hyper liberal right now, and it was just such a misfired joke. But like, so it's kind of really just shows you the sign of the times.
Yeah.
And, you know, like on my old show, I had Christian Picciolini, who's was a Nazi and a skinhead, bashed fucking people's brains in for being black or Jewish or whatever. Like, he found a home, he found love in this hate group, which is why people join hate groups. And he's changed in the past 30 years. He's been working getting people out of hate groups, but someone had to see the possibility of change in him. This
is so weird to hear, because this is what a lot of people that I fuck with talk about all the time. Not just completely writing people off, like she's using that dude as an example where, yeah, he was a piece of shit and then he changed, showing you that it's possible for these people to change. But in this, where we're at right now in this climate, no, it's just like, oh no, we need to punch and kill and eradicate all these people. Very dangerous rhetoric, you know, kind of mimicking the fascists of yesterday, where it's like, we need to just get rid of these people and think of them as inhuman and not give them any type of empathy or use any type of sympathy towards them. We just need to eliminate them. And it's like, whoa, dude, like, let's chill out for a second. Let's think a little rationally here.
You know, he said, I asked for advice. He said, find someone who does not deserve your compassion and give it to them anyway, because that's what happened to me. So all the time I think, is this a before Christian, like, is this just a Christian Picciolini in the making, and not to have some, but I just feel like as I draw lines in the sand, and I wish for other people on the left to do this too, you have to ask yourself, would I want this person to be changed, or do I secretly want them to stay what I deem as wrong, so I can point to them as fucked up and myself as right?
See, it's so strange hearing this stuff because it's so different from the type of stuff that typically people like her dish out on Twitter. She's not trying to dunk on anyone. She's not trying to virtue signal. She's actually talking about her real feelings. And that's the crazy thing. I think there's a lot of these people, a lot of these Hollywood liberals that think exactly the way she does, but they won't say that shit online because they don't want to be ostracized from that crazy fucking virtue signaling group that's going on. The cancel culture. Seriously, think about what she said for a second. Do you want to change these people that you're ideologically opposed to, or do you want to just continue hating on them and then so you can get virtue signaling and dunking points? The unfortunate thing is that it's usually the latter. Usually people don't want these people to change, because if you wanted to change them, you wouldn't talk to them in the way you do. You wouldn't want to say, you need to just punch all these people, you need to kill all of them. You wouldn't be siding with Antifa wanting to attack them and all this shit and saying, oh, everything they're doing is fine. It's not nearly as bad as what X, Y, and Z is doing, just making excuses and stuff. Instead of being like, how about we just take the non-violent route and we try to talk to each other and maybe we can reach some type of common ground. But like I said before, you usually want to see that these people that you're ideologically opposed to as inhuman, and so there's no reason to talk to them. This is just like textbook 101 of cancel culture, and it's fucking garbage.
It becomes a performance to some degree to be outraged by whatever you're being outraged by, and then the next thing
there's
you move on
so
to the
much
next
to
thing.
genuinely be outraged by, but you have to say, like, is the action I'm taking here creating change or creating further division? I don't know.
I swear it's like she realizes all the bullshit that she's been tweeting out and a lot of dumb shit that she's been saying and shows that she's made recently. It's almost like she's having a revelation. It's like, oh, I'm a part of the problem. So now this is when she finally starts talking about the sins of her past.
On my show, the Sarah Silverman program, which I loved, there's so much problematic from that show. I mean, it's brutal. And then there's a whole episode where I'm in blackface. We shot it in South Central. It's an episode about race, played by a character, my character, which is like a ignorant, arrogant, woman trapped in what I wouldn't know how to call it then, but a liberal bubble, just like, I believe there's racism, I'm gonna show that there's racism, or like that. This episode was Alex Desire and I swap, so he's Jewish and I'm black for the day, and we're both the most racist version of that.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you use racism in a tasteful way, and tasteful, I don't mean as in like a good way, but I mean like, say, in a way that, for example, Robert Downey Jr. did with Tropic Thunder, where it's like, it's obvious, you have people in there that are checking him. It's like a brilliant performance piece, or you think about stuff like back in the day that Mel Brooks did. Like I mentioned Blazing Saddles in one of my previous videos, where it's just littered with racism, but it's like, there's a point to it. And that's what I really mean by tasteful. Like, I don't think that, say, just because she's automatically in blackface means that it's the end of the world and she's automatically racist, even though a lot of people would disagree, which I'll touch on later, but I want to let her continue.
It's okay to go, wow, look at this back then. That was so fucked up, looking at it in the light of today, of what we know. But to hold that person accountable if they've changed with the times, like for me, I'm not saying like, don't hold me accountable. I held myself accountable. I can't erase that I did that.
Yeah.
But I can only be changed forever and do what I can to make it right forever for the rest of my life.
See, that's where she fucking loses me. Her saying that is just like, okay, so then you think Tropic Thunder, what Robert Downey Jr. did is shit? You think that anything like that at all is just trash because you're saying, oh, like I have to change forever and learn from my mistakes, so you're just admitting that it's a mistake? That's when you fucking lose me, because you're talking about all this stuff and like cancel culture sucks and everything like that, but you're perpetuating, you're playing into it instead of being like, this is something I did, there's a point to it, Clearly I'm not fucking racist and I don't need to defend myself. Shut the fuck up.
And also there was just so much I didn't know.
Right.
I knew there was racism. I knew that there was. I wanted to illuminate that in some way in comedy, but I didn't know. I didn't know that cops were killing black people, unarmed black teenagers, like on the regular.
All right, I'm not gonna focus on that right now. I want to stay on subject, and this is when she starts talking about how she got canceled.
I recently was gonna do a movie, 2 days on a movie, a sweet part in a cool little movie, and then at 11 p.m. the night before, they fired me because they saw that a picture of me in blackface from that episode.
Really?
And, you know, I was just, you know, I didn't fight it. I said, you know, hey, I actually addressed this last year in an episode of my show. And
it doesn't matter that you addressed it in your show. It doesn't fucking matter. What matters now in cancel culture is that you are a perfect specimen, because if you've done anything that is deemed to be racist in any way, shape, or form, doesn't matter the context, you are canceled.
Listen, I'm not that person anymore, but I was doing it. You know, I didn't go to a fucking Halloween party in the 80s in blackface. I was doing an episode about race.
Yeah.
You know, now I understand it's never okay and blah, blah, blah. You know, not to blah, blah, blah it, but, you know, but...
See, it seems like Sarah's having this inner conflict, like this duality. Like earlier it seemed like she was having a revelation about all the dumb cancel culture that she was partaking in. And then at the same time, it seems like the indoctrination is trying to take over again when she's like, oh, I understand that it's never okay. But just a second ago, you were talking about that you were doing a TV show. You weren't just showing up to blackface in a party or something. Like you know, and you understand what you were trying to do. You know that you're not racist, but then the indoctrination is trying to take over. And it's like, oh, it is racist no matter what. I understand that it's never okay. It's like, what are you doing, lady? You're a comedian. You fucking know deep down that this was a performance piece. You didn't mean it to be racist in any way, shape, or form. You're trying to show something. You're trying to parody and spoof racism. You know this. Stop fucking letting this bullshit cancer culture liberal bullshit just overtake you. It sucks. So that's pretty much the gist of what she was saying, and I appreciate her talking and being somewhat real about things. Like, you can hear between some of the madness, you can hear her genuine feelings. You can be like, I know exactly how she feels. You know that she wants to just say 100% and just be 100% real, but at the same time, a little bit of that cancel indoctrination is still holding on to her. You know, there's a lot of comedians that are just 100% real all the time. It's one of the reasons why I like Christina P. and Tom Segura so much, and I listen to their podcasts all the time. They're my favorite podcast, Your Mom's House, because they're just no filter. They don't give a fuck about any of this stuff. They're not going to pretend. They're not going to pander in any way, shape, or form. It's another reason why I like Joey Diaz so much, because he doesn't give two shits about what time it is. He's gonna say what's on his mind, and people just leave him alone because they're just like, that's Joey. And I feel like people would have left Sarah Silverman alone if it's just like, if she didn't try so hard to virtue signal and fucking dunk. She got caught up in it, and then she got bitten in her ass. It sucks, but that's the type of shit that's gonna keep happening if you perpetuate cancel culture. But that's it for this video, guys. I just wanted to point this out and kind of show you the irony and how interesting this stuff is, and just showing you that nobody is safe, even the most virtuous of virtue signalers. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it. It would help me out in the algorithm a lot. Want to give a big shout out to my mega sexy patrons. You guys are helping me out quite a bit. If you guys want to support this channel, there's links in the description for my merch. That's it. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video.